This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post, coming to you from the Fort Hall School of Government in Nairobi, Kenya. In this show, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 29th of August, 2022, and I am Miss K.
I am JM.
And I am GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Art of the Goof. In the Standard, Where Lies the Truth? In the Star, I met CHEBUKATI at a secret venue, says TUJU.
Yeah.
And in the People Daily, the stage is set for supreme battle. Welcome.
Today I'd like to talk about the difference between opinions, moral arguments, and legal arguments.
Yes.
The response by William Ruto to the People's Petition makes a number of claims. The Ruto response claims that Raila has had, and I quote, 30-year pattern of strikingly similar acts after every presidential election. The response also claims that, and I quote, the time has come for this honorable court and all Kenyans of goodwill to tell Raila that lightning does not strike the same spot twice. The sovereign will of the Kenyan voters should not be silenced merely to quench Raila's 30-year thirst for power. The question is, are these claims by William Ruto moral arguments, legal arguments, or opinions?
Yeah.
Let me give some definitions. A legal argument is a set of written or oral statements designed to convince another of the validity of the author's conclusion on an issue. These statements are supported by law, that is either legislation, a legal rule or a principle, or case law. Moral arguments, on the other hand, are based in ethics, and they attempt to define what is good or bad conduct. Then there's opinions. These are statements that are made without any support for any reasons. So, is the claim that the court should not hear your case because you keep filing cases a legal argument, a moral argument, or an opinion? And before you decide, allow me to add another issue. In a presidential election, is it a legal decision or a political one? So there's a widespread perception that the US Supreme Court acted politically in the Bush versus Gore case in the year 2000. Credible accounts show that some Supreme Court judges had definite lines of political preference, and their preferences influenced the outcome of the case. So are these arguments admissible in our courts? In the past, the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, has limited itself to questions of law and the general constitutional principles relied on by the petitioners and respondents to make its decisions. Now, the judges have decided the cases according to those legal rules, those legal principles, and case law or precedent. And more importantly, the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, has an obligation to explain that their orders or that ruling they made, like nullification, is the product of legal reasoning, and that is why it takes them 21 days to write their full judgments. So just like a doctor will not send a hypochondriac, that's a person who is always thinking they're sick, home, even when they keep coming to the hospital, the court has a duty to hear each case and consider valid legal arguments, no matter how persuasive the moral and arguments or political or opinions are.
Fantastic.
Now, today I would like to talk about the shambolic state of IEBC, and I would like to do so based on their response to the People's Petition. Just to remind you, the People's Petition is the main petition by Raila and Martha. First of all, I must say IEBC's response is rather damning. It's a damning one, but it's also a curious one. It is damning because it throws CHEBUKATI under the bus. It paints him as a dictatorial, headstrong chair, but one who is extremely cunning in spite of his typically dull and unassuming appearance. It is curious because technically it is framed as a response, not just of the 4 dissenting commissioners, but also a response to the petition that represents perhaps the entire body corporate of the IEBC. And so the question I imagine the court will be asking itself at some point is, do the sentiments contained in this response also represent the general views of the leadership and managerial staff of the entire commission? Whichever way, it is damning. On this one, CHEBUKATI is between the devil and the deep blue sea. So here are 3 points worth of note. Number 1, in the People's Petition, Baba said that throughout CHEBUKATI's tenure from 2017, he has been unable to run the commission in a collegiate manner as required in Article 138 of the Constitution. Throughout his tenure, he has had acrimonious public disagreements with commissioners. First, Akombe, who resigned in 2017. Then there were the commissioners Connie Minor, Margaret Mochanya, and Paul Kurgat, who resigned in 2018. Then Ezra Chiloba, and now 4 commissioners. That is 9 in total. Who is the constant there? CHEBUKATI. Indeed, in their response, IEBC says that CHEBUKATI is a total Machiavelli man. In his leadership style, he has fostered an environment of division, suspicion, and dysfunction. As a result, he ran the commission and the 2022 presidential election as a one-man show. That's what they say in this petition, in this response to the petition, number 5. Number 2, IEBC has taken the position that CHEBUKATI should not have assumed the role of returning officer for the presidential elections. This, they hold, is unconstitutional and leads to the usurpation of essential functions of the commission. Let me explain. According to the Constitution and the electoral laws, the presidential election is conducted in each constituency. For this purpose, the Commission appoints 290 returning officers to conduct elections and make returns to the Commission for the results declared in each constituency. IEBC did indeed hire these constituency returning officers. In fact, I think they should be permanent and pensionable employees of the Commission. But CHEBUKATI, they say, appointed officials in addition to the 290 officers to assist him undertake verification at the National Tallying Center at Bomas. In their response, they suggest, in fact, that these unnamed officials were the equivalent of middlemen of a higher tier and who were obviously not gazetted to handle election result management. The respondents hold that the introduction of these middlemen at Bomas made the process lack accountability, transparency, and made it vulnerable to rigging. They suggest that this is where CHEBUKATI could have generated his own version of results. That is the results that he read on the 15th. Lastly, IEBC addresses itself to the puzzle of the Venezuelans. This Venezuelan story reminds me a lot of Cuando Sesmia and a lot of these soap operas. CHEBUKATI, we are told, is the one who personally organized for the reception and clearance of the Venezuelans at JKIA. When Kinoti smoked out Venezuelans, CHEBUKATI confronted DCI publicly, but he later climbed down somewhere in Jugo House. The IEBC says in their response that the commission did not invite the Venezuelans, and that the Venezuelans had no official or legitimate business in relation to the elections. In fact, they say that the Venezuelans were working on behalf of and receiving instructions from a Mr. Mohammed Abdullahi Abdi, a former officer of the commission and an agent of the UDA party. Very damning allegations, which if proven can only lead to one outcome, and that is nullification. May I remind you of the Moraga ruling at paragraph 402, in which he said, if not, this court were never called upon to adjudicate on a similar dispute, but would reach the same decision if the anomalies remain the same, irrespective of who the aspirants may be. Consistency and fidelity to the Constitution is a non-wavering commitment this court makes. Boy, hasn't Chief Justice Moraga been vindicated?
Hey, time heals.
Time heals, that's right.
And I'm still on Moraga. In 2017, Moraga told us that elections are the surest way through which the people express their sovereignty. If there's even a slight chance that the IEBC behaved suboptimally, then how will we know the true will of the people? That is the question. So today I'm concerned with how much we can trust in democratic institutions such as the IEBC. Kenya has come a long way in its electoral history from the days of Mlolongo. We've become accustomed to a new level of transparency and accountability in the process. IEBC is meant to make all citizens feel that there is public trust in the final results, putting everyone at ease that the final results would be the same after independent verification by themselves as a unified commission and by other stakeholders. But the IEBC currently stands divided. Politics aside, this should signal that something went very wrong. Most recently, the vice chair of IEBC, Juliana Cherera, made her response. Her main argument, that CHEBUKATI exercised his power unilaterally. Unilateralism is any doctrine that supports one-sided action. She claims CHEBUKATI acted in a manner disregarding other commissioners and then took a final decision that they found disagreeable. Cherera accuses CHEBUKATI of the usurping of the role of commissioners in critical committees, and I quote, in complete disregard to good corporate governance. Cherera submits that the chairperson redesignated the commissioners' primary roles and assigned them functions not relevant to the tallying and verification process. And I quote, Commissioner Irene Masit, who chairs legal committee, was placed in charge of hospitality, which covered logistics and security.
My goodness.
Commissioner Nyangaya, who chairs ICT, was assigned protocol, receiving VIPs.
Really?
Yet technology was central to the election process.
My goodness.
We are told that CHEBUKATI even reassigned the deputy CEO, Ruth Kulundu, in charge of election operations to protocol duties, after CHEBUKATI assigned her role to one of her juniors. We must ask, why did CHEBUKATI, at the most critical moment of the election, reassign the roles of key commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioners who also happened to be the Serena Four. Why was he so quick to sideline them? Recognizing that Kenya has an elaborate process of identifying and selecting commissioners, the institutional framework for IEBC creates an executive board of 9 commissioners, with the chairman as a first among equals. But even with CHEBUKATI being first among equals, the Kenyan model of selecting the commission applies a model that favors technical expertise, and the appointment process is designed to shield commissioners from political interference. If everyone served a special technical purpose, was disregarding this setting IEBC up to have vulnerabilities that would be easy to manipulate later on? And in keeping with Kenyan law and international standards, is it not CHEBUKATI's responsibility to ensure that the processes, systems, and personnel involved in the counting deliver credible results, devoid of fraud? If the IEBC is a duty bearer, designed to be both independent and accountable, then should it not follow that the person at the top should be most responsible when failure happens?
Yes. The buck stops with CHEBUKATI, right?
I think
It
so.
does.
So guys, we had a bunch of headlines, and I want to pivot to the People Daily, where the stage is set for the Supreme Battle. There, because I like the wordplay with the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I agree.
And there you have it. The People Daily gives us the winning headline. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. But also find us on TV on GoTV, Prime Video, and